Okay, well, it's been a wonderful day. And first thing, my first reflection is really, it just gets better and better. This is the third year of our CFEM Live and Action Research. And if I think back to the first year where we started and what's being produced now, it really is pretty amazing. And there's some really quite clear and consistent findings coming out from a lot of the action research. I think probably if you've been in this room for the whole day, you'll have maybe picked some of that up. Certainly bar models, manipulatives, ratio tables have been consistent themes through much of today. So we started up in the morning with Christ the King and their partners, and their use of geoboards and algebra tiles, so less used perhaps manipulatives. So some of the key things coming out of that, the first thing, important point they made is teachers actually had little or no experience of using manipulatives in the past, and all the implications there for teacher training and time to prepare properly. However, students, like with pretty well everything today, have reacted really positively to their interventions. Interesting, I think from that, they said that it was best for learning maths, less for exam practice, which is an interesting statement. And we talked a bit about bridging activities there and moving people from the manipulatives through to, if you like, paper and exam questions. Something else that came up was how manipulatives facilitate learner discussion in maths. So not something we think of straight away, but an important part of maths learning. We moved on to Newman Partners, beginning to sound like firms of solicitors here, isn't it? But they looked at mastery approaches with learners moving, particularly those learners who've done level 1 functional skills, moving on to GCSE. And the focus there was very much on bar models, but also they emphasised formative assessment and use of diagnostic questions a lot. So actually identifying what the problems are for students and what misconceptions they come with. So that's going to be a key theme next Friday in the final CFEM Live event. Again, great impact on learners. There's one finding, 91% of those functional skills students made progress in, I think, algebra questions in particular. So there is a common theme coming through, perhaps, that use of these approaches is having more impact on lower attainment students. Why that is, we need to speculate. Is it reluctance of those who've just missed the grade 4 to engage with them, or do they not need them? I don't know. Something perhaps we need to research a bit more. So after the break, anyway, we moved on to Southwark College and their partners. Again, they emphasised, really brought it home to me, the fact that the majority of their students don't have a grade 3 GCSE who are doing GCSE. So it isn't just pulling people up one grade, it's several grades. So from the literature, they focus particularly on the idea of number sense and making the maths personally relevant to students. And their focus was particularly on percentages and fractions and decimals. So they use manipulatives to emphasize that C in the concrete bit of the CPA approaches. Interesting, centicubes, when asked, was the main manipulative that they'd found useful and the most adaptable and flexible. Again, big emphasis on bar models there for the pictorial. And I really like that bit about real life at the end, where we're talking about the websites, the ASOS website and so on, and making it something that 16 to 19 students on the whole can really relate to. It's about their lives. Again, significant increases in competence in many areas that they looked at. And that triangulation of evidence, you're getting similar messages from the students themselves. I think in that case, 86% said manipulatives had helped their understanding, and from teachers about how successful the methods were. The last one before lunch, we moved to Weston College. And again, it was manipulatives was the key theme. This time, looking at those AO3 questions from the end of the GCSE papers, and their focus was on particularly ratio tables and bar models. And again, a lot of emphasis on fractions, ratios and proportion, compound measures. So a lot of common curriculum areas coming out as well. So they, interestingly, in introducing bar models and ratio tables, used scaffolded versions to introduce students to them to begin with. And again, impressive results. 70% made marked improvement, 55% their confidence improved. Interesting as well, your thematic analysis at Western seemed to be suggesting it was ratio tables that students thought had the biggest impact. I don't know whether I got that right, Catherine. Anyway, after lunch, we had something slightly different from Shipley, looking at semantics of maths vocabulary, particularly focusing on lower level students, entry 3, level 1. So looking at key maths vocabulary and particularly sets of command words. So use of matching activities, glossaries, introducing IT as well. Again, some very significant increases in student recall and understanding came from that. Important point that they made as well, that it's not just about recall, it's about application, as any good language teacher should know. So it's the active use of the language that's important, that came out as important within that. Back to Western again. And so it's transferring it here into the vocational realm. So not just using it in the maths classroom, but getting the vocational teachers involved. Again, ratio tables was important there. And the petrol lesson looked really great, really something that you could see students engaging with really well. And then there was a vocational maths board, the manipulatives, which I think Catherine's going to copyright after today's session. So clearly that was a really successful way of transferring those successful methods from the maths classroom into the vocational areas. And it seemed everybody concerned was really impressed. And it was a double whammy in many ways, that it was clearly improving students' progress in their maths qualification, but also having significant benefits for their vocational skills. And the vocational teachers and their attitudes to maths. Finally, we heard from Nelson and Cole. So again, quite an emphasis on manipulatives here, but different sort of intervention. So these were workshops attached to the regular lesson for students who were struggling in maths. So focusing on core topics, small groups, and allowing learners to work in those small groups with the time and space to master the content before moving on. So it wasn't without some difficulties in terms of learners feeling a bit held back by the pace sometimes, timetabling issues and so on. But again, it showed significant improvement in terms of the learners and their, particularly the use of manipulatives, and their confidence growing in terms of those core topics, again, fractions, ratio and algebra. So 21 out of 24 felt that the workshops were making a difference. So just to summarize, I think there were I've identified 4 things which have come out strongly from today across the workshops. I mean, the first, most obviously, is the use of visual representations and manipulatives and the significant impact that seems to have. Secondly, is perhaps the disproportionate effect that has on, if you like, lower attaining students, and maybe thinking a bit more why that is. Is it about engagement with higher level students, or is it that they genuinely don't benefit from the models? Importantly, third one is teachers, about the teachers needing the time, the CPD, to develop their skills and, importantly, their confidence to be able to carry this up in the classrooms. So they need to be confident about using the approaches before they use them with students. And finally, emphasised throughout was the importance of, if you're going to use these sorts of techniques, use them from the start of the year and use them repeatedly and regularly. And that's the way they're going to have the most benefit. Anyway, congratulations to all who presented today. I think it was a wonderful day and some fantastic research being carried out in the ARGs. So well done, everyone, and big clap for everyone.